Hey y'all, it's Dawn, and I'm so glad you're back. I've got another fun, budget-friendly DIY video for you today. This is another collab, and I'll tell you more about it in a minute. Now for the first DIY. I created a reversible sign using two Dollar Tree square signs. I removed the hanger and staples from both of the signs. I reattached one of the twine hangers using painter's tape to the front of one of the signs. And then used Star Bond adhesive and accelerator to glue the front of the signs together, so I had the back of the signs to the outside. I used Dollar Tree spackling to fill in the staple holes, let it dry, and then sanded it smooth. I found this scrapbook paper at Michael's and thought it would be perfect for the fall side of the sign. I applied it using Mod Podge. I used a finger sander and sanded in a downward motion to remove the excess paper. I applied another layer of Mod Podge to the front of the paper to seal and protect it. Also, because I will be using a Chalk Couture stencil and didn't want it to tear the paper when I removed the stencil. I decided I would use the Hello Autumn section of this stencil. I defuzzed the stencil by placing it on the fuzzing cloth several times to make the stencil less sticky. I placed the stencil where I wanted it on the sign, used a ruler to make sure it was centered, and placed painter's tape around the section I wanted to use. I used the shimmer pumpkin paste from Chalk Couture. I have to say, this is one of my favorite Chalk Couture colors. I stirred the paste with a skewer and then applied a thick layer with a mini squeegee. Using the same squeegee, I removed the excess paste and put it back into the jar. I then removed the painter's tape and pulled up the stencil. And look at how beautiful this side turned out. It is amazing. On the Christmas side, I painted the sign with Waverly Mineral Chalk Paint and then distressed it with plaster and antique wax. Once it was dry, I added Chalk Couture surface wax and buffed it. I removed the stencil and defuzzed it several times before applying it to the sign. With a ruler, I aligned and centered the stencil where I wanted it to go on the sign. For the reindeer, I used bark paste, and I tried to be very careful not to get it on the scarf part of the reindeer. For the scarf, I used shimmer crimson paste. Once I had the reindeer completed, I lifted the stencil up and replaced it. I used Chalk Couture's Shimmer Shadow for the words Christmas Eve. I applied a thick layer of paste and then removed the excess and placed it back into the jar. For the fine print in the center, I used Shimmer Frost and applied it in the same way with a thick layer and then removing the excess. I absolutely love how the Christmas side of this sign turned out too, but I may have to go back over the center with another color so you can see it. The Shimmer Frost was just too light. To finish it off, I placed it inside of a rustic handmade frame. I'll leave a link in the description for both the stencils I used along with the paste for this project. Let me know in the comments what you think of this reversible fall Christmas sign. This is the Quick Change Challenge, hosted by Teresa B. DIY and co-hosted by What's Jamie Making and Dave's Wreath and Things. The Quick Change Challenge features reversible and changeable decor for different seasons. I'll leave a link to Teresa, Jamie, and Dave's channels in the description below, along with a link to the playlist that you will definitely want to check out. Now back to the DIYs. I used these 3 Dollar Tree crates to make a seasonal decorative piece. For the stain, I used some water, Waverly Antiquing Wax, and Waverly White Chalk Paint. I mixed all this together well. I applied the stain to all 3 boxes, inside and out. And removed it with a paper towel. This mixture gave the crates a whitewashed look that I loved. Once all the crates had been stained, I used my heat gun to dry them. I recently got these stamps from Michael's and I haven't used them yet, so I'm really excited to see how this turns out. I think I got the ink pad from Walmart. It's been in my stash forever. I began by taking the letters off that I was going to be using to spell out thankful, grateful, blessed. After dabbing the letter into the ink, I placed the letters starting at the end and working my way over. I put the elf a little higher than I wanted, but that's okay. I like the way it looks. I continued stamping the letters until I had all 3 boxes complete. I turned the boxes over to add the words for Christmas. Merry Christmas, y'all, because that's how we say it here in the South. I decorated the boxes with Dollar Tree picks and Spanish moss. And I love the look of the stamps. These little crates turned out so stinking cute. Let me know in the comments if you like the stamped look or vinyl better. I used this fall pillow cover I got from Amazon and made it reversible by using Chalk Couture ink and a stencil. The pillow cover is 18 inches by 18 inches, so this beautiful Chalk Couture stencil will fit perfectly on it. Since the pillow cover had been folded and had creases, the first thing I did was iron the back side. I used a couple of old Cricut mats to place in the middle of the pillow cover. This helps to keep the fabric in place and also from getting ink on the other side of the pillow cover. I smoothed the pillow cover onto the mats in the middle with my hands. I used one whole Cricut mat and then used a second one and cut smaller pieces. I wanted to make sure the ink would not get on the other side of the pillow cover. I placed the stencil onto the pillow cover and rubbed it down with my hand. I placed painter's tape in the corner where there is a star you can put on top of the tree if you want to. And then used a Mod Podge roller to make sure the stencil was stuck good so the ink wouldn't seep under the stencil. I used Chalk Couture black ink for the words at the top and the bottom. I dipped a small squeegee into the ink and then applied it to the stencil. I placed a thick layer to start and then removed the excess ink with the squeegee. I then moved to Christmas and did the same thing with the black ink. I was careful not to get the ink on the tree because I want it to be a different color. If you want to do a one and done design, you would just add the color of your choice to the entire design. When I finished, I put the excess ink back into the jar. For the tree, I used Chalk Couture Pesto ink. I applied a thick layer to start, and then removed the excess and put it back into the jar. And for the trunk, I used Chalk Couture bark. After washing my hands, it was time for the reveal. You'll want to make sure you don't have any ink on your hands from this point on, because if you touch the fabric with the ink, it will not come off. And look at how beautiful it turned out. Looks like it came from a store this way. To set the ink, I placed wax paper on top of the design and pressed it for 4 minutes with my iron set to medium. I can't believe how amazing this reversible pillow cover turned out. It only took me about 20 minutes from start to finish. I'll leave a link to the Chalk Couture products I used in the description. I have to say, I love using Chalk Couture ink. It looks so professional and high-end. Let me know in the comments what you think. This was such a fun project with a big impact on my shelf. I used 6 Dollar Tree solid square blocks and painted them with my favorite paint, of course, Waverly Plaster Chalk Paint. I lost the footage of me painting and drilling the holes in the middle of the blocks. It's just amazing how things disappear on my camera. Do you have a problem like this? Things just disappearing for no reason? My keys are another thing I can never find. But anyway, after prepping the blocks, I used Design Space to create the letters for these seasonal blocks. I have a link in the description if you want to try this DIY for yourself. After cutting and weeding the vinyl, it was time to start applying the vinyl to the blocks. I lined the blocks up so I could eyeball where the letters needed to go. If you don't have a cutting machine, you can use Dollar Tree stickers to get the same effect. I have seen some really pretty sticker letters recently at Dollar Tree. I did each of the letters for each of the seasons, one season at a time. Now that the blocks are ready, it's time to move on to the beads. I used 2 sizes for the garland. I get my beads from Amazon, and you'll find a link to the store I get them from in the description. I wound up using 20mm and 16mm beads. I thought I had some 18mm, but I guess I've ran out. I placed the 16mm beads on a skewer and painted them with Waverly ink chalk paint. I placed the skewer on a bowl for the beads to dry. I wasn't worried about getting a solid color because I wanted the beads to look rustic. Next, I placed the 20mm beads on another skewer and did the same thing with Waverly plaster chalk paint. Once the beads were dry, it was time to put the garland together. I started at the end of the season and worked my way to the beginning. I used twine as my garland string. I pushed the twine through the hole in the block. I then added a white bead, a black bead, and then another white bead. This will be the pattern between all of the blocks. I did put tape around the end of my twine to make it easier to thread through the blocks and beads. I tied a knot at one end of the garland to hold the beads and blocks on. On the other end, I wanted to make a long tassel. I used Dollar Tree lace ribbon, twine, and some buffalo check ribbon from Hobby Lobby. I cut them to the desired length and then stacked them together, alternating between all the different ribbons. I placed the stack on top of more twine and tied a really tight knot. I tied it as tight as I could get it. You can also use hot glue to hold the tassel together. To attach the tassel, I used the long twine from the garland, wrapped it around the tassel a few times, and then tied another tight knot. And when I was finished, I have a perfect piece for my shelf that I can change out for any season. I went with the black and white color scheme because it is neutral and can be used for any season. And besides, that is my favorite color scheme. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see y'all next time. Happy crafting!